I gave my entire life to my family without ever asking for anything in return. From the very beginning, I believed that love was enough, that if I loved deeply and gave honestly, my place in their hearts would always be secure. I never imagined there would come a day when I would need them and find myself completely alone. I am not telling this story with anger or bitterness, but with honesty, because silence almost erased me. And because there are many parents who live this pain quietly without ever speaking about it. I was born into a small home where money was limited, but responsibilities were not. From a very young age, I learned that love often meant sacrifice, and that lesson stayed with me throughout my life. I dreamed of nothing extravagant, only a peaceful home filled with warmth, laughter, and people who stayed. I believed that if I worked hard and loved sincerely, life would eventually be kind to me in return. I married young, carrying hope in my heart and trust in my soul. We did not have much, but we had each other, and at that time, that felt like enough. Life was not easy, but love made every hardship feel lighter. Back then, I believed love was permanent and that family bonds were unbreakable. When my children were born, my life stopped being about me. Every decision I made was shaped around their needs, their comfort, and their future. My happiness came from watching them sleep peacefully at night, knowing they were safe and fed. Without realizing it, I slowly disappeared inside that love. But I never saw it as loss because I believed this was what motherhood was supposed to be. I woke up before sunrise and slept long after midnight. My hands were always working, even when my body ached and my eyes burned with exhaustion. I skipped meals so my children would never feel hunger, wore the same clothes year after year so they could have new ones, and smiled even when I felt completely drained. I never complained because I wanted my children to see strength, not struggle. As time passed, their father slowly faded from our lives, and responsibility settled fully on my shoulders. I became mother, father, protector, and provider all at once. Fear was a luxury I could not afford because my children were watching, and I needed to be strong for them. I told myself that one day when they grew up, everything would be worth it. Years passed faster than I expected. Children grow up whether you are ready or not, and suddenly the house that once felt small began to feel empty. I watched my children become independent, educated, and successful, and I felt proud in ways words cannot fully explain. I encouraged them to chase their dreams and build their own lives, never wanting to hold them back or make them feel tied to me. Slowly, distance followed. Phone calls became shorter, visits became rare, and conversations felt rushed. They always sounded busy, always moving from one responsibility to another, and I kept telling myself this was normal. I told myself this was what good parenting looked like, letting go and standing quietly in the background. The house grew quieter with every passing year. Festivals came and went without laughter, and birthdays passed without celebration. I found myself setting the table for guests who never arrived and saving stories that no one asked to hear. Loneliness did not arrive suddenly. It moved in slowly, until one day it felt like it had always been there. My body began to weaken in ways I could no longer ignore. Simple tasks became heavy, nights became longer, and pain became part of my daily routine. For the first time in my life, I needed help, and asking for it felt harder than any work I had ever done. I practiced my words before calling my children, careful not to sound like a burden, careful not to disturb their lives. They promised to visit soon. They promised to call back. They promised to help when they had time. Time never came. Days passed without messages, weeks passed without visits, and my phone remained silent. My birthday arrived quietly, and I cut a small cake for myself, crying softly so no one would hear it. One night, my health failed me completely, and I was taken to the hospital alone. I sat in a cold room, surrounded by strangers, while nurses asked who they should call for me. I watched other families hold hands, pray together, and comfort one another, and for the first time, I realized how deeply alone I truly was. That moment broke something inside me that I didn't know could break. Decisions about my life began to be made without my voice. Convenience became more important than comfort, and I was moved where it was easier for others, not where I felt safe or at home. I wasn't angry, just deeply tired. I had given everything I had, and still I was alone. In that silence, I finally met myself again. I began writing my thoughts down, listening to my own voice, and allowing myself to feel without guilt. I realized that my worth was never supposed to depend on being needed. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring, stopped expecting apologies, and chose peace over hope. I forgave my children quietly, not for them, but for myself. Holding anger felt heavier than loneliness, and letting go gave me strength. I understood that love should never require someone to disappear completely, and that parents deserve care just as much as children do. One day, your parents will not ask for much. They will not need money, gifts, or grand gestures. They will only need your time, your presence, and your voice. And if you are a parent listening to this, love deeply, but do not erase yourself, because your life has value beyond sacrifice. I gave my life to my family with love. When they forgot me, I finally remembered myself. This story is not about blame. It is about awareness, because love should never leave anyone alone, and family should never feel like strangers.